let's talk about the second one, dude.
Yeah, let's talk about this one. Now, to set this one up, this one is talking about, again, how Ted Phillips and George McCaskey, how they hold Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy accountable for
Yep.
some of the moves they made. Because as you know, Bears fans, Ted Phillips is just the president and doesn't get involved in football operations. So then the question becomes, well, if they don't get involved in football operations, but they're Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy's boss, then who's accountable for Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy? Well, all right, so that's what you're going to hear right now.
Hey, George, even with this year's playoff appearance, the Bears have been in the playoffs 7 times in 28 years since the end of the Ditka era. And to a lot of fans, that reflects on you. So how much merit is there to the idea that the Bears need people more rooted in football to make these football decisions than you and Ted?
Well, Ryan and Matt are our football guys. I've heard it often that Ted meddles in football affairs, and that notion is just absurd. It just doesn't happen. He's the president and CEO. Ryan reports to Ted. But the idea that Ted or I meddle in football decisions just isn't true.
No, that's not my question. It's not about meddling in the actual football, like on the field. I think the criticism is that you are judging the coach and general manager, and I think people feel that the Bears need people more rooted in football to make that decision.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
That's a valid criticism. My performance is evaluated by ownership and the board, and that's how that process works.
His job is evaluated by the ownership and the board, and he's the guy that's supposed to oversee Ryan Pace and make sure that somebody is holding Ryan Pace accountable for football decisions when just 30 seconds before that, he says any thought of Ted Phillips meddling in football operations is ridiculous. You remember that? You know, I mean,
yeah, I did hear that.
What is this, Tim? This is an absolute circus. This is a clown show. This is holding nobody accountable for the moves that Ryan Pace makes.
Yep. And I think it all really, and I got a theory on this, son, and I'm sure you're going to blow up in a minute, but my theory is this is all based on relationship and trust. That Ryan Pace was hired, that he is kind of the golden boy. I really feel like they almost feel regret over the whole Emery thing, and probably Lovey, to where they kind of feel maybe some guilt. I don't know. This is all, speculation. But Ryan Pace is kind of their child or their son. And he's very charming. He's a nice guy. They trust him. He could probably talk them into anything, right? I just feel like that's there. And then on that same end, I really believe that, Virginia talks about her faith. Matt talks about his faith. They all talk about being good people and having good people. These people are doing their lives together. Virginia's probably with Matt's kids sometimes. Same with Ryan Pace's kids. They are always together. They're probably, Ryan and Matt, if they're Christians, I'm assuming they're discipling each other. So they're seeing this really solid relationship and friendship, and they're overlooking the results of that friendship and relationship. And I think what they're seeing too is in someone like Matt, they're seeing his moves, his screw-ups, in the fact that he was way prideful in the way he wouldn't give up his play calling. They see him changing that as being unselfish and making it all about the team. So they keep saying it's all about the Chicago Bears. So they're probably seeing that as, wow, that's a really humble approach to do things. That's the kind of people we want. And like I said, this is all speculation, but I really believe this is all based on relationship. I think that's the only way you could kind of gloss over the Mitch mistake, like it didn't really even happen. And also talk about, I don't know, man. That's how I feel. I think it's all about relationship, and I think that's why they're glossing over issues.
Well, thanks for proving my point for me, Tim. The fact of the matter is that they don't care about the winning aspect of running an organization. And listen, we mentioned this before. Tough decisions have to be made. I get that I get that they feel like Ryan Pace is their son. I get that they feel they like him. I get that they like Matt Nagy, but this is a results-based sport, Tim. I mean, the fact is that if they're not winning, then changes have to be made, regardless of whether or not.
That's all nice, son. That's all nice. But if that's not how they see it, that's a reality. Like, and this is why we're not played.
This is why we are who we are. You know, this is why the Bears organization is poor. This is why it doesn't care about us fans, because we want to see a winning team. We don't care that the front office is all lovey-dovey with one another. We don't care. Have somebody go in there and ruffle some feathers around. Have Chris Ballard, who's like the GM of the century, who was from the Bears organization, right? Spent 10 years with the Bears. So he interviews to be the GM, starts calling out all of the things that's wrong with the Bears front office. And guess what? He's gone. He goes to Indianapolis, and now he's like
he's actually recognizing the importance of the quarterback, and he's not dismissing it.
Correct. But so instead of facing the music, which is what Chris Ballard would have done, they hire Ryan Pace, because Ryan Pace is a yes man. They like Ryan Pace. He's a nice guy. He's not going to ruffle any feathers. He's going to do whatever Virginia McCaskey wants, and he's going to do that over making the right decisions for a winning team. I mean, let's face it. He's got to go ahead.
This is why they don't hire somebody above him, because of their trust level with him to gloss over mistakes. There are football guys. They see, yes, we got mistakes, but yes, we're learning. They don't see the errors they're making. They're glossing over it to where they still trust them with these things.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, like I mentioned before, you want to talk about the quarterback situation, Tim? I mean, Nick Foles, Mike Glennon, Mitch Trubisky, that's what we've had to deal with under Ryan Pace. Let's talk about the fact that he hasn't been able to provide any depth whatsoever to this team, so that basically if Jalen Johnson is out for a game or if Roquan Smith's out for a game, we're toast. Like, we're toast. We have nobody that can fill in. Normally in football, it's next man up. Not for the Bears, because Ryan Pace has constructed this roster so thin and so top heavy that we can't even afford to have anybody miss a game. I mean,
we would have been better off with him re-signing Kwiatkowski and him re-signing Floyd than what we did with Quinn.
Yeah, Robert,
Literally.
absolutely.
He's a depth.